First, I'd just like to say thank you to the App family for showing up and providing a great crowd for us Saturday in the fourth quarter. We were definitely the largest contingent there. The noise and energy was definitely in our favor. And that last drive, you could tell our players were feeding off the crowd as they were working towards the end zone that we had our seating. So just a great showing for them, and appreciate them and everything they mean to our team. Obviously, it was a great win for us, and it was an awesome opportunity for our seniors to get that win, and it meant a lot to a lot of our players from South Carolina. But with that being said, it's over, and we're moving on. We've got a very good Georgia State team, a very difficult test on the road, a night game on television. So we know that we're going to get their best shot, and we got to have our best stuff. Offensively, they're one of the best offenses in the conference, one of the best offenses in the country, top six in the country in rushing offense, top four in the Sun Belt in scoring, number one in the country, Sun Belt, number five in the country in third down conversions. So they do a tremendous job on the offensive side of the football. Their offensive coordinator is a former App State assistant coach. Obviously, Coach Elliott's done a tremendous job this year with his team. And we know we're going to have to play our best football in order to be competitive in this game. And so with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Eli, first off, just after a pretty tough game like that against South Carolina, how's team health? I know Elijah Dirasuba kind of gets dinged up, and
Yeah.
I don't think he came back into the game, at least from what I can remember.
Yeah.
So just how's team health right now coming off a game like that?
For the most part, we're healthy. There is no update yet on Elijah. We're still doing further testing and evaluations. I should have more clarity on Wednesday where that stands. We have the typical nicks and bruises and ankles and things like that. But with our trainer and Coach Jones, our athletic performance and our nutrition, and the help of our athletic department with the investment they've made in our players, I feel strongly that we'll have everybody back ready to go.
So you've mentioned after a couple of games now, in the situation where the defense is playing really well, you're kind of weighing the fact that you don't want to screw it up for them.
Yeah.
And that seems like a pretty tough balance to kind of go through as offensive coach. So just how do you kind of work through that balance when obviously you want to produce more points, but you're also trying not to mess things up for the defense, like you've mentioned?
Yeah, it's not a difficult balance at all. You play to win the game. You play to win the game. We're not playing stats. We're not trying to score this many points. We're trying to win the football game. And when you're in a two-possession game, you're trying to bleed the clock, and it's all about game management. I think it's just my 2 cents, but in football, we've got a lot of guys who don't understand game management. They don't understand clock. They don't understand putting their team in bad situations. The reason why Bill Belichick's the best coach of all time is because he understands game management. He understands it's about winning the game. It's about taking away their best player, making them beat you left-handed. And, we felt like that was our opportunity to do that in the game. The punt right before half, we knew we were getting the ball back to start the third quarter. We punted. They tried to score, and they end up throwing interceptions. Difference in the ball game backed up. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you can't do. You can't put your team in a bad situation. And like I said after the game, we had played well enough defensively that the only drive they had mounted besides the first 2 field goal drives, the only thing they had done was when we threw the interception. So didn't want to put our guys in a bad situation. But for me, it's not difficult at all. It's about playing to win the game and finding the best way to do that.
How do you feel about the offense's ability to get off explosive plays right now? I know you guys have played a little tougher defenses, but I just wanted to see kind of where you thought about that right now.
We measure our goals to have 8 explosive plays a game, whether that's run or pass. We measure a run by 12 plus. We measure a pass by 15 plus. In the Georgia Southern game, we actually exceeded that goal. And last week, we did not exceed that goal. That was a little bit tougher to manage. But I think we've done that in every single game we've played in. So I think we're fine explosive play-wise.
And just a broader question here. The last couple of weeks, you've seen 2 coaches that have lost their jobs in their second season.
Yeah.
And as a guy in the profession, does that worry you a little bit, like when you see things like that happening now?
I hadn't put too much thought in it. My opinion now is with social media, with fan reaction after every single game, games have become beauty contests instead of the actual result of consistency and long-term building. And I think people are quick to make assumptions and judgments. I don't know specifically about those situations, so I can't speak to those, but I do know that as a football coach, every game is now a must-win game, or you're going to hear about it. And it's going to be positive and negative. I mean, there were games here where we won, but maybe we didn't play as good as we people thought we could play, and all of a sudden there was a lot of negative energy towards that. And I think as a society, we tend to be, we want to be the first one to make a critical comment because we want to be out first in front of it instead of saying, let's just wait and see. I think wisdom allows things to occur over time, and after a period of time, you make a judgment. If 2 years was enough for them to make a judgment, 2 years was enough for them to make a judgment. I don't know. But I do know that I feel like every football game is a must-win now, and that's just is what it is.
Eli, you talked a little bit about explosive plays. It was clear that you were really spending some energy trying to push the ball vertically against South Carolina. They play a lot of man coverage.
Yeah.
And, credit them. They played some really good ball in the secondary, and they made that tough on you. As an offensive play caller, really kind of a twofold question. One, how do you have to try to manage your patience in that situation, knowing the conditions are there, but we're not having the success we want? And then second to that, how do you impart that kind of thought process onto your quarterback so that you make sure both of you are in lockstep? Let's not, to your point, put ourselves in a bad position.
We have a saying, smart, not conservative. And that means be smart, but that doesn't mean be conservative. That means when it's opportunity to take your shot, take it. But don't put yourself in a bad situation. That's something Zach and I actually talk about all the time. Look, when you play an SEC opponent, you understand the style of game it's going to be. I anticipated we would have between 10 and 12 possessions. We end up with 11. The last one being, the two of them were right before half and at the end of the game. So the reality of it is you really only had really only had 10 possessions. We scored on 4 of them. And amounted another drive on the 5th one. So you got to take advantage of your opportunities, and you got to be smart about how you attack a defense. We tried to take a shot in the third quarter, backed up. We had a one-on-one matchup with the nickel with Corey, and we didn't make the throw. But like I said, you just got to be smart, not conservative.
You've mentioned third downs recently in post games, and
not good.
Obviously it's a trend that you want to make sure. You guys were up over 50% first 6 games, and that's dropped about not quite in half, but
I think we're 45 right now.
Yeah. What are the conditions that have taken place? Probably I'm sure they're different from game to game, but are there any kind of constant threads you're seeing that are creating third down situations for you that you don't want to be in?
Well, I mean, third downs are part of the game. I mean, it's just you got to execute in those situations. And in Saturday's game, in the second half, I think we had some third and longs that I called run plays instead of trying to push it. One of them we were backed up, the other one we were at midfield, and I thought we could flip the field on them. So at those points, you're just trying to get. I mean, your success rate at running the inside zone on 3rd and 9 is probably not real high. We've got to be better. We've had some accuracy issues, and Zach would be the first one to tell you. We had a chance to convert on a I think it was when Chandler actually made the field goal, but we had an out route to Malik that we missed. We had another third down where we had an in cut to Malik that we missed. Last week, obviously, when we played Georgia Southern, we had some balls that we missed on 3rd down. So those are accuracy issues, and that's just I got to continue to work getting timing, and I've got to call plays that we can get completed. So we got to go back to work. We got to, we talked about as staff, we got to spend more time on 3rd downs this week, and it's got to be something that we're better at.
This week with Georgia State, their starting quarterback, Ellington, was injured before halftime of the Monroe game. Sounds like it's pretty iffy, maybe even doubtful that he's going to play this week. So you've got his backup that comes in, plays the second half. Mm-hmm. As a coach, when you go into a situation like that where you've got an offense that has played all year with one guy behind center, and then the new guy comes in and you've only got 2 quarters really of film to go in and try to break that down, How do you prepare for that? Do you assume, hey, he's going to come in and play just like the previous starter did, and we have to be prepared for that, or do you game plan to what you see from him in that limited film?
Kind of some of both. I think you have to make more scheme adjustments and play to the scheme, and then react to what his strengths are, because we're not sure what his strengths are. Obviously, I think Ted and the defensive staff do a really good job of limiting the quarterbacks and what they do, and we've done a really nice job in the last two games, or last game and in the game prior to taking away the quarterback's strengths. This one, obviously, we're not sure exactly what his strengths are, so we got to be sound in our schemes to make sure we're not giving up anything. You got to assume he's the number 2 quarterback, so he's been getting number 2 reps, which means he's been repeating the plays that the first quarterback run. So I don't think we'll see a scheme overhaul or a lot of new plays. It's just a matter of what he does better or what he's not quite as good as the previous quarterback, who was playing at a tremendous level. I hate for injuries to occur, and I hopefully wish him a speedy recovery, and would look forward to competing against him should he get healthy.
Coach, you mentioned that Georgia State is number 6 in the country in rushing.
They are, 6th in the country in rush offense.
And you more or less not even more or less, you shut down South Carolina's running attack, especially Dowdle. Just, if you would, first of all, how did you do that? Was it just obvious that what they were doing, that you knew it was coming? And secondly, how can you duplicate that this upcoming Saturday?
Well, I thought we played physical at the line of scrimmage. We actually shedded blocks. We tackled better than we had before. We didn't miss tackles, and we fit our gaps right. How do we ensure that? We go back to work, make sure we fit it right. I mean, we gave up 336 yards the week before, so obviously we're not perfect at it, and we've got to make sure that we have our focus and execution and make sure that we have a great week of practice. They do a lot of option style things within their pass or within their rush game. It's a RPO style offense. They're reading the nose, they're reading the end, they're reading the third level defender and throwing glance routes behind him. So he's got a multiple array of ways to attack us, and it's why their rushing offense is so good. So we're going to have to be very eye disciplined, which again for us has been a problem this year, just calling it like I see it. So it's a tremendous challenge for us this week.
You mentioned the option. Back in the old days, when they were in the SoCon, they had 3 or 4 teams that ran the option, and everything we heard was it was assignment football. One guy's got the quarterback.
Yeah.
So knowing that it's not exactly the same thing, but do you do some of that where you say, all right, someone watch the quarterback, and the pitch man, make sure anything along that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely assignment football. It's just if you stay in the exact same look and structure, then coaches nowadays, okay, they're in this, then this is how we attack it. They're in this is how we attack it. So you have to be able to have blitzes. You have to have multiple pressures. And with those layers, you have to have discipline and maintain structure and accountability.
Georgia Southern kind of still, I'm guessing Georgia Southern still ran that type of triple option.
Yeah, they did.
You don't see that a lot now.
No,
Is that a problem when you prepare, even for an option?
Well,
coming up,
in Georgia State runs option. It's option style football. It's just different than the triple option as far as being a dive and a pitch. It's we're going to read and throw the ball behind you. So it puts players in conflict. They have a run gap and they also have a pass responsibility. So they got to fit a gap, but they're responsible for 3 drops. So then you got issues. So that's the issue.
And lastly, just listening to the locker room through the wall, pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good for them, I'm sure. Is that? I mean, they're human beings. Is that hard to just slam that down and move on, or how do you deal with that? Because it's a big win. I mean. Yeah,
I think the excitement was twofold. I think the excitement was for the win, but the excitement for the opportunity of this week. We felt like everybody in here felt like we let an opportunity slip the previous week, and very rarely in life do you get a second chance. And with the way that the games lost or the results came out Saturday, I think there was some buzz in our step because of the results of the game. And so I don't think we have any issue right now putting this game behind us. Yesterday we came in here and everybody to a man, wanted to talk about Georgia State. They wanted to talk about Georgia State. And, we know it was a big win. We all get that. I think the best thing we have going for us is we did it once before already, and we had to put it aside to go play Coastal because we knew that was a good football team. And we know this week's a whole nother challenge. I mean, you got a 6-hour bus ride. You're going to play at night. I mean, you're going to be around a hotel all day. And they're a really, really good football team. I mean, Sean's done an incredible job this year with that football team. For them to beat Tennessee the way they did, and make no mistake about it, Tennessee beat the crap out of South Carolina too. So, I mean, if you're cross-comparing, that's a really good football team. And then they got beat in a heartbreaker against Texas State and bounced back and have, been on a high until last week. And, obviously they faced an injury there with their quarterback. So Sean will have them ready. He does a great job motivating his guys. And I know they're going to be fired up to play us. And so we're going to have our best stuff.
I might have a couple for you. Just
Go ahead.
for all the team success that you guys have had this year, some of the individual honors have been a little tough to come by. Do you pay much attention to that or even really recognize that at all? Or
The team. We don't care. It's the team. Our record is what our record is. And this is not about, it's not about individual players, which we've got some tremendous individual players. It's about the team. And that's what I love about this group. They don't care anything about that. It's not about somebody getting recognized. We recognize it in front of each other. As Jay-Z says, real recognizes real. And I think the real people out there understand that we have really good football players. But the reason why we're successful is because it's about the team.
could you just assess Georgia State's defense a little bit of what you've seen out of them?
Yeah, it's going to be a tremendous challenge. It's a very similar style of scheme as what they've played here in the past. I think this guy is Nate Woody's style defense. So it's going to be based out of odd front. They're very multiple in their coverages. They always have an extra person in the gaps. We struggled mightily versus Georgia Southern in this style of defense. So as an offensive staff, that's a real challenge for us to come up with a better plan. And it's a real challenge for our offense to play better versus this style of defense. And so we got to go to work and make sure that as a staff we come up with a much better plan than we did last 2 weeks ago.
You kind of assess what goes into tackling well. Are there a few characteristics that really stand out to you that with its positioning? You're just
Yeah, you know what? The first thing about tackling is you got to want to tackle. You got to want to get the guy on the ground. But we practice tackling every day. First off, it starts with tracking angles, making sure you're tracking the ball. We talk about tracking the near hip. Then we talk about long stride as long as possible, then get to a short stride, head behind, wrap and roll. And, our guys have really bought into that. Like I said, we do it every day. Whether it's offensive, defensive players, we practice a special team circuit that involves tackling every single day. And then our defensive staff does a good job of coaching it throughout the week.
I guess just last for me, when you assess why Georgia State has been so effective running the ball, whether it's Ellington's threat when he's healthy, can you go a little bit more into them specifically, aside from scheme, or just what they've done well?
Well, I think I think it starts with Brad and the scheme. They've got a good offensive line. I think maybe it's 4 or 5 returners at the offensive line. Their tight ends back, their running backs are already rushed for over 1,000 yards. You got a quarterback that's a dual threat, so that means you have to play. If you're going to cover him, you got to play zero coverage, which opens up people on the outside. And if you have a one person wrong or you're reading a person, you're putting somebody in conflict. So, his scheme's very sound. It's very good. It's been problematic for a lot of people when he was at Western. I know him. He's come and visited when I was at NC State before. Been very impressed with the way he has the detail he has. He knows exactly what he's trying to do and how to attack defenses. And so I give a lot of credit. They've got really good players, but his scheme is very difficult.